Welcome everyone to Fastballs and Fatherhood. This is episode 2. First of all, I just want to say thank you for all the support so far. Got a lot of people that have reached out and gave a lot of support for what we're doing here with this venture. So I appreciate all the comments, appreciate everything that you guys are saying. So we'll jump into episode 2 today, and what we'll talk about in this episode, overwhelming. The want seems to be people talking about parents and tips for parents on choosing the right program and how to go about that. I'll start with, I don't have all the right answers. This is my experience, the experience of a lot of people I've talked to, and some things that I feel parents should be aware of and how parents can be better about the programs that they choose. But it really comes down to understanding what you as a parent want and what your kids need or want. Also, a quick shout out to Arizona Elite 12U baseball team as they went to Cooperstown week 1, and they were champs for week 1. Week 2, shout out to Rawlings Tigers out of Scottsdale. 12U, they were the week 2 champions in Cooperstown. I believe the 13U Rattlers team, I think they were in Ohio when they were champs there, so congratulations to them. The 13U Scottsdale Dirtbags team was in Cary, North Carolina, and I believe they got second place there, so congratulations to them on the USA Futures event. Big congrats to the 10U team, Scottsdale Dirtbags, as they took first place at that event in Cary, North Carolina, USA Future. So kudos to them on that. And then last but not least, a special shout out to my daughter's softball team, Arizona Rising 2014. They went to St. George, Utah for AFA Nationals and finished second place. It was pretty awesome. They played 11 games on the week. And on Championship Sunday, the girls battled out hard and played 3 games to get into the championship, and then just ran out of gas in the championship and ended up losing 9-8 to a Cruisers team from Southern California. Big shout out to all the players on that team and all the coaches. Great performance by all the girls. It was really special to see them come together for that tournament. They'll be out at Huntington Beach for the PGF Nationals at the end of July, and hopefully they can continue representing Arizona. But congrats to all those teams. If I missed you and you guys went somewhere and you guys were out of state, I apologize. I don't know everyone that's went. This is just the teams that I know in the last couple of weeks and what they've done. Kudos again. All right, so let's jump in to the topic at hand, right? So parents, what do we need to look for? I think it's very important for parents to really understand what it is that they want out of it. And I think that's the toughest part. I've been talking to a lot of parents over the years. You know, I'm also a parent of kids in club. That's the hardest thing, is to try to figure out what you want. It's always easy to say development. We need to really figure out what that is and really be honest. This is just something that husband and wife can have, those conversations of what it is that they're looking for. And there's a laundry list, right? Proximity to where you live is important. How far are you willing to travel to not just practices, but to games? There's the financial aspect, as every club team has different dues. Is your kid really ready for that type of competitive environment? I don't think you should pull kids out of rec ball too early. I think there's also a lot of hybrid type leagues out there that gives you the feel of that club experience without being ultra competitive and making that big commitment. It's a very big commitment when you commit to a club team, not just for you financially, but from time-wise. The expectations are different from every club. So I think those are important to know. I think one of the big things to do is conversate with people that are in the clubs that you're interested in, people that have played for those coaches that you're interested in. I think every parent should have conversations with the coaches and lay everything out at the front end of what it is that you're looking for and what your expectations are. Do you expect your kid to play 5, 6, 7 different positions? Do you expect your kid to specialize in a certain position? And does that program have a coach that specializes in that position? Let's say you're adamant about your kid being a catcher. Is there any catching specific stuff that the program does to help your catcher become a top level catcher? If there's not, that's okay. You can seek out one-on-one lessons with specific catching coaches. If it's pitching, how much emphasis is put on pitching? Arm care is something that is not talked about enough in youth sports. I take that back. It is talked about enough. I don't think it's actually done enough. People talk about it. To me, the sound of arm care is similar to the word development. Everybody talks about it and everybody says they do it, but then you'll look up some of these teams and see a kid threw 170 pitches in a weekend. That's not really taking care of a kid's arm. Again, age specific, kid specific. I don't really get caught up in this kid should only throw 80 pitches on a weekend, or this kid should only throw 50 pitches on the weekend. Every athlete is different, and from mechanics standpoint, from exertion standpoint, from arm health standpoint, 25 pitches for pitcher A could be a lot more taxing on the arm than 60 pitches for pitcher B. And all those things are big variables that your coaches need to understand and know that. They are 1 to 2 inning guys, even at 10, 11, 12, 13. There are guys that max out after 1 or 2 innings. They're max effort guys, and every pitch is super max effort. And then there's guys that can pitch 5, 6 innings and throw 80 pitches and be fine. So again, it all depends on the athlete. That's an important conversation to have with coaches and programs that you're looking at. Arm care and development are 2 big buzzwords in today's day and age. But parents, I think, are afraid to really ask, well, what are you doing for arm care? What does that mean to you? You got to push back a little bit, make sure coaches understand what that means, and coaches have plans for that. Hey, we're very adamant on pitch count. We watch them. We believe in this. We prepare them. And with that, whatever that case is, I think it's important to understand what that means. And then we can dive into the development word again. What does that look like? I think it's important for you to go watch practices. I think it's important for you to see the structure of practices, understand what's happening at the practices, what they're going to look like, what are we focusing on, what are we emphasizing, what is the goal. I'm a firm believer that if you're joining a club team, you should be aware of how they function in their practices and what they are doing at their practices, whether it's in an indoor facility or whether it's outdoor at the field. What does that look like week in and week out? I think it's important also to have discussions about roster construction, position flexibilities. Ask, what's the turnover been like in the last couple of years? Find out, do these coaches lose a lot of guys in the middle of the season? Is there high turnover? If there's high turnover, you need to ask yourself why, if there's high turnover, and have that conversation with the coaches. More oftentimes than not, it'll be they just wanted a different opportunity. And a lot of things happen and players can go a different way without any hard feelings. Just because a player leaves the club doesn't mean that there's hard feelings. So I want to just throw that out there immediately. It's okay to go a separate way and be on good terms with that club and those coaches. That's totally fine. There's different reasons, from financial reasons to proximity to the house to, hey, he wants to play with his buddies that are on this team. Whatever it is, there's a lot of good reasons, a lot of real reasons that happens. But I think it's just something you need to be aware of and understand. Understand coaches' ability to motivate and inspire. I think that's very important at this age. Do the coaches connect with the kids? Are the kids able to understand what you're saying? Are they soaking it in and learning it? Or are you just talking at such a high level that they don't understand, and so they're not learning? I think some of that stuff is important for sure as well. So I'll talk about why choosing the right program is important. I think it's super important that we're choosing the right program because, especially at the younger ages, we want to put our kids in a place that they're going to continue to fall in love with the game. So first things, at the early ages, 7, 8, 9, you want these athletes to fall in love with the game of baseball or soccer or softball. While they're falling in love with the game, you want them to also be understanding the fundamentals of the game. If we choose the wrong program early on, it can set the kid back from a development standpoint, or worse, it can make the kid fall out of love with the game. And that, to me, I think is the worst part, to get a kid to not love the game because they got bad coaching, were bored at practice, got yelled at a lot, whatever the variety of reasons could be. And there's programs that can do that and do more damage than good for a kid. So it's important to pick a good quality program from the beginning. Find programs that have been established, and not just the name established, but particularly the coach. There are, because names change, or their coaches can leave a particular program and go on their own and start their own thing. And if that program's 2 years old, it doesn't mean it's a bad program if that coach has been doing it for 8, 9 years. Do a little research. It's important for us to choose the right fit, because we as parents should also be in a situation, in an environment where we are not constantly looking over the coach's back or looking over our back, so finding that right program. And it's hard, especially at the younger ages. It's super, super hard because there are so many choices. If you're a first time parent going in the club, you don't know where to start. You go into Facebook and you go into East Valley Baseball Connections or the Arizona Baseball Group, and you type in, I have an 8-year-old son looking for recommendations for club. Then 463 comments later, there's 463 recommendations. So you start reaching out to the first few, and everyone's like, come out, you go out. And that's kind of the process. My advice, and I wholeheartedly mean this, is find players that you know in your sphere. Maybe it's older brothers of kids that your son or daughter go to school with, and talk to them about it. Talk to people that you know in the baseball, softball, soccer community. I highly encourage you guys to have conversations about coaches, past experiences, what you know, what you've seen, with people that have been through it. My biggest advice to parents is don't go at this alone. It is a very long, confusing, and difficult road. It's okay to put your pride aside and talk to people. And again, as I said earlier, be honest with yourself of what you want. What do you want at 8 years old for your kid? You want him to learn the fundamentals, stay in love with the game, stay active, be around other good kids that are going to push him to continue to get better, so then go find those things, right? But have these conversations. 12, 13, 14, now you're separating yourself in things that you want and things that your child needs out of club sports. Now you're talking, I want to compete at the highest level. I want him to be pushed at practice every day. So I want to be around the best players I can be around. We want to travel and go to these highly competitive tournaments, whether they're the perfect games of the world, they're the PGF nationals of the world, whatever these tournaments are in your particular sport. That's what you want to be, and that's where you want to go. And then you have to find club teams that align with that. On the other hand, if your kid wants to play with all his buddies from school and they just want to go out and have fun and stay local, they don't have no interest in traveling and going to these highly competitive tournaments, then you find a club that's tailored for that. There is no right or wrong answer about what it is that you want. I think you just have to know what that is. I'm not going to go search out the top team in the state for my son that's going to travel the country and go to all the majors, perfect game tournaments. He's not that guy. He's not that kind of player. My son wouldn't thrive in that environment because he doesn't belong in that environment. I've seen kids his age, and I've seen the top talent in that age, and he is not near that. What I look for is a competitive environment. So he's practicing with players that are pushing him, players that are better than him. So he has a desire and want to get better and work harder. I think that stuff is important. I think the practice competition is where it's super healthy. Oftentimes we shy away from that, and parents want their kid just to be the best regardless of level of competition. And I think that can be kind of lazy and develop bad habits in your kid not practicing as hard because he just knows he's the best. So that's something to keep in mind, right? Be honest with yourself and where your kid fits in and where your kid should be playing. Then go look for those club teams. Financially, travel time, commitment, Do you want everyone that you're traveling with to be the same 12 guys that are showing up to practice week in and week out? Or are you okay if of the 12 of you guys, 8 are going to get some playing time and there's 2, 3 others that are going to go every time? There's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of top level, quote unquote, national teams out there that have guys from different states that show up for these big tournaments, whether it's Beast of the East for Perfect Games, all of these types of big tournaments. There's a lot of teams that have players from all over the country that just show up and play. And that's 100% fine. A lot of Arizona guys on some of these top teams, like SBA Bolt's got some Arizona guys at this 12U going in at 13U level. Ballers has some Arizona guys, at the 13, 14U level, Ghost National. A lot of Arizona guys out there at these levels, let them play. Eric Burns' program, they got a couple Arizona guys. So that's fine. And those guys, they rake and they're great baseball players, so they do awesome on those teams. So nothing wrong with that. Everything is okay if you are aware of what you're getting yourself into and what it's going to be about. I just always have the problem with people that complain after the fact when it's like, oh, we were on this team and every weekend, they're bringing in 2, 3 new guys to guest play, even though everybody's there and we're paying our dues and not getting our playing time. And it's mind blowing to me because I'm like, well, the team's done that for the last 2, 3 years. Why was it going to change? Once upon a time, you were the guest player, and it was all fine when you were the guest player coming in. But now that you're on the team, and now there's a new guest player taking your spot, your kid's spot, now you're upset. Okay. So that's what I mean about be honest with yourself. You get on those teams, congratulations, that's awesome. But be prepared. There's somebody else coming to take your spot. You have to work harder so your spot's not taken. Don't complain if a guest player comes and takes your spot. I tell our boys on our team, I've told them before, I'm like, hey, as you guys get in higher levels, coaches get paid to find your replacement. Sounds super harsh, but coaches get paid to find your replacement. Once these coaches are getting paid, or you're talking high school, you're talking college, and on, as a coach, my job is I need to find somebody better than you at that position. So again, coaches get paid to find your replacement, right? That is the reality of sports as you get older. And the more competitive the team is, that starts at a younger age. These 11, 12, 13U national teams, they're looking for the next guy to come in. While you're playing second base and doing a great job, that team is playing against another team and that second baseman is just balling out. They're eventually going to reach out to that second baseman and be like, hey, you want to join us in Georgia for this next tournament? That's how quickly that kind of stuff happens, right? So again, just find the right fit that you're looking for that fits your child and be clear and understand what it all means, right? So I think another thing that's important is communication. How do coaches communicate, and are coaches transparent about what's going on, with the team, communicating tournaments, practices, things that are happening, roles and expectations. Coaches' communication and transparency is an undervalued asset, undervalued in terms of the coaches that do it well versus the coaches that don't. Some coaches go above and beyond. I've seen such things as progress reports. I've seen things as sitting down one-on-one with the parent and the kid to give them where they're at, what expectations, what they could work on to get better, sort of like a mid-season progress report, I guess you can call it. I've seen some coaches do that. A lot of that stuff isn't necessary. I think those things are great. They're above and beyond. I think it's important if you, as a parent, want that, to talk to the coach about that as you're choosing the right program. So if you're one that believes in feedback and wants feedback on where your kid is and what he's doing in progress report, are they developing to the expectation of yourself and to the expectation of the coaches in the program? I think when you're having this evaluation period of choosing a program, you can sit with the coach and say, all right, so talk to me about your communication and talk to me about, do you give feedback of where that athlete is? How do you go about doing it? If that's important to you as a parent, you need to ask that up front. If the coach says, no, that's not really something we do, but more than happy to have a conversation with you at any time, you as a parent have to decide if that works for you. If you want it more structured, then you got to find a program that does that more structured. Keeping that line of communication open and being aware of those are important. Culture is important. Culture is set from the top down. Coaches set the culture. The program has a culture, but within the program, coaches develop their own culture as well. There is a program culture. There's program values that everyone does and most programs have, but then also within that, there is a culture within that team that is created by those specific coaches at that specific age group. Our parents causing drama, our parents really laid back and step back and allow the coaches the freedom to do what they need to do. So as you look into joining one of those, you have to ask those questions, and hopefully everybody's being honest with you. Honesty is the biggest factor and the biggest key. Coaches, be honest. When people are asking you these questions, specifically parents, you owe it to them to be honest, because if you're not honest and they are upset and have a bad experience and then leave and they go say, well, they said this, they were supposed to do this, and none of this got done, then it just becomes a big he said, she said thing. Just, but let's be honest from the upfront, coaches and parents. Be honest and ask the right questions. If the coach delivers what he said he was going to deliver, you can't be upset about that. If the coach tells you at the beginning of the season about playing time and roster construction and all that stuff, and the coach says, we carry 13 on Saturdays, we're going to bat all 13. I'm batting the 9 that I feel gives us the best opportunity to win that particular game. And if you sign on to that, because in your head, your kid is a top 5 kid, so you'll never have to worry about them not being in the lineup on Sunday. So you sign up for that and you're okay with all that. You cannot, parents, you cannot be upset 3 months down the road if your kid is on the bench on that Sunday. You just can't, because you signed up for that, and you signed up for allowing the coach to decide which 9 gave him or her the best chance to win that game. You just can't. You got to put your pride aside and move on from that particular game. You want to have that conversation with cooler heads a couple of days later. Self-evaluate. What did my kid do on Saturday? Did they just have a bad tournament? Are they being moody? Are they not feeling good? There's a lot of things that go into it, right? Did the matchup not feel right? Be honest with yourself and dissect that before you jump into a hysteria and start talking to other parents, and that's where all that can start, right? So you ask, you get the answers you want, you sign off on it, you have to abide by it, even if it happens to your kid. I think that's important. So there's a lot of those things that I think we can do to help us choose and find a program. It is hard. I will tell you, it's hard. It's hard as a parent. It's hard as a coach. It is extremely hard to know what is right, especially if you're just getting into it at those lower age levels. So my biggest takeaway, my biggest piece of advice is talk to people that have been through it. Hopefully you have friends that have kids that are now playing high school ball and have gone through it, or are out of high school and went through the process to figure out what works. Everything is going to be different for every kid. You're going to have high-level kids that learn quicker, faster, are faster, stronger than others. You're going to have kids that are going to be late bloomers that need to be in a less competitive environment while they physically can get to the level they need to be at, but you can get them good instruction. There is good instruction at less competitive teams. There's this myth that there's all terrible coaches, only the good coaches are just at the top 3, 4, 5 teams in whatever state you're in. That's not true. There are really good coaches up and down the levels of competition. There's a lot of bad coaches up and down every level of competition as well. There's a lot of drama up and down every level of competition. So be selective, take your time. Don't feel that you have to rush and commit to a team after going to 1-2 hour tryout. I think that is a bad recipe that leads for a lot of unhappy parents. You know, you wouldn't marry somebody after 1 2 hour date. You don't have to date them for a really long time in the club world, but go to various practices for multiple programs, talk to multiple people, attend real practices with the current team, see how your child fits in with those players on that team. Hopefully you've seen this team in game action. You've seen how these coaches are in game action. You've seen how these coaches are down two in the bottom of the sixth and their reaction. Hopefully in the perfect world, you've seen all that, and that helps you make better decisions. But I'm not going to lie to none of you guys, it's hard. Be honest with yourself. Understand what, as parents, you want. Be united front, mom and dad. Be united in your wants. Be united in what you need for your kid to give your kid the best chance to keep falling in love with the game. Rule number one, keep them in love with the game and helping their love for the game grow. And how do they get their skills developed better? And what coaches are going to mold to your kid, right? Not everyone can handle a yeller. Not everyone can handle a soft talker. And as the coach, somebody that can adapt to each different kid. You can yell at one kid and then you got to treat the other kid differently. Do the coaches, do that? And they should, because everybody gets triggered different. Everybody reacts different. Everyone gets motivated differently. So those are, my advice to all you parents out there. Again, not easy by any means whatsoever. It is a tough thing to do, but I think you can do it. Stay committed to it. Understand what you want out of it and where you're trying to go. Make sure your kids are enjoying it, because they're only going to be that 9 to 12 to 13. That those years go fast, and those are the years where they have to make sure they're falling in love with the game and staying in love with the game, developing a lot of good memories and friendships. They got to be getting to development, the right development, right? They got to know their cutoffs. They got to know their pickoff plays. They got to make sure they're picking up sign. They got to make sure that they understand situational baseball. Less than 2 outs, runner on third. You got to give yourself up and get that run in. All of these things have to be part of the DNA of whatever program you're going to if you want to be a successful high school baseball player. You can't get to 15 and start to learn that stuff. That is too late. You got to learn that stuff early on. So again, enjoy it. It's fun stuff. A lot of good things happening. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll keep rocking and rolling and keep going at it. Again, go follow it on Instagram. It's Fastballs and Fatherhood. And we'll keep giving you guys updates, and we'll keep rocking and rolling. Appreciate all the support from everybody out there. Thank you guys for tuning back in, and we'll get back at it here in a couple of weeks with another one. All right. Thanks.